we want to apologize if there is anything.
Apologize to our Gen Zers. I pray, see, it's like African Americans. We live in America, but a lot of times we don't feel respected.
Rais William Samoei Ruto amelazimika kuwaomba Genz na Wakenya kwa jumla ambao pengine wanaona anaongoza vibaya ama wanakashifu uongozi wake, akiwa apologize sana. Hii imetokana na kwamba kumekuwa na mgeni hapa Kenya wakati kumekuwa na mkutano ama prayer ya kuombea Kenya ambayo ilikuwa imehostiwa pale Safari Park Hotel, na mgeni ambaye alisababisha mpaka Ruto akasikia ameshikwa na huzuni sana, anaitwa Rickey Bolden, ambaye ni pastor na star wa pale United States, ambaye amepreach sana wakati wa mkutano pale Safari Park. Na Rickey Bolden ni mtu ambaye anaheshimika pale United States of America, manake ni pastor ambaye ana preach na anasikika, na amemsihi Rais William Samoei Ruto kuunganisha vijana wa hapa nchi Kenya na wakue kwa pamoja na kusikue na vita. Na amempatia mfano, kuna kipindi Amerika kulikuwa na rais fulani, na pia yeye wakati aliona haongozi ama watu walianza kucomplain sana, aliwenda kwa wananchi na akaomba msamaha. So William Samoei Ruto ameweza kuomba Genz msamaha sana, akisema kulingana na vitu ambazo zimekuwa zikiendelea kama abduction, kunakuwa na vitu mingi, watu wamepotezwa sana hapa nchini. So ameweza kuambia watu na vijana, apologize sana William Samoei Ruto, na ni kitu kigumu sana kwa rais wa taifa kuapologize kwa wananchi. So William Samoei Ruto, tunakubig up sana kwa kitu ambacho umekifanya siku ya leo, na ukakuwa mhambo sana mkiwa pale Safari Park kwenye mkutano.
To our children, if there is any misstep, we apologize.
Na naibu wa rais Kithure Kindiki hakuachwa nyuma, pia yeye aliweza kuambia vijana wa heshimu government na wafuate sheria ambayo iko hapa nchini Kenya, na wakifanya hivyo pia serikali ama government ya Kenya itawaangalia, wala si kupiga kelele ama kutoa vita na fujo. So Kindiki ameweza kuambia vijana wakuwe wapole na mambo itakwenda sawa.
However, equally, we respectfully request our children also to respect authority and also agree to be mentored and supported.
If all of our political leaders were intentional about building relationships on the other side, what if they said, how do we go and build a relationship and love our brother and love our sister? What if we were intentional about it? Can you imagine what's going to happen here? And so as much as we want to rebuild, if we can't build relationship, it's just not going to work. I don't care how many building projects we do, if we don't rebuild relationship, if we don't rebuild trust and love and respect, and I've only seen that happen in our political circles in the United States one time, and it was back in 1992, when President Bill Clinton, a Democrat, met with the Speaker, a Republican, and they came to the conclusion that we will not speak negatively of one another in public, we will not turn our backs on one another, but we will commit to love one another. They built a relationship, and the last time in 1992 in U.S. history, we balanced the budget with the two of them. God does great things when we come together. That God is calling us, not only that we build relationships in the diaspora, but we build relationships with one another. So some of you might say, well, Rickey, how does that fit me personally? What about What about the parent who hasn't seen their child in a long time? What if you said, hey, how do I rebuild a relationship? Or what about if you've gone through a divorce and you've not spoken to your ex? What about saying, how do I build a bridge? What about the neighbor that you don't really like? How do you begin to build relationships? What about your Gen Z? How do you build the bridge? You know, I have children. I have 5 children, 4 boys and 1 girl. What's fortunate is my 1 girl can beat up all of her brothers, but I have 5 children. And I remember last year coming to the prayer breakfast. And when my brother Earl and I got back home, we saw the Gen Z's frustration. And Earl asked, Rick, what do you think the problem is? What Gen Z is dying, and I'm talking because I have Gen Zs. They're dying to be loved. They're dying for a seat at the table. They're dying to be respected. And I won't ever forget when my boys were growing up, because sometimes as parents, we want our children to stay children all of their lives. But that's not the case with Gen Zers. Gen Zers have grown up, they've gone to college. Some of our Gen Zers are smarter than we are. I have a daughter, she's a doctor. Whenever I need advice on my health, I don't go to a hospital, I call my daughter. Whenever I want to invest my money, I don't go in and go to a bank, I call my son Caleb. When I need counseling and when I need therapy, no, I don't go to a psychologist, I go to my son Micah. Because all of my children have grown up and they're no longer children. They're adults. And I had to learn to treat them like adults. And so when they graduated from college, I took each of them out to dinner and I gave them a kiss. And I said, you are now an adult. I expect you to make decisions like an adult. I don't have to go and live anywhere in your neighborhood. None of my kids live within 1,000 miles of where I live. But they all act like adults. And one of the most frustrating things that could happen to a Gen Zer is that you keep treating them like a child. And I got to tell you, I started praying for Kenya. Because, I work with young people, I mentor young people. I understand a little bit about their minds. And one of the things I prayed for is I said, here's my prayer. I said, Lord, I pray the adults would apologize to our Gen Zers. I pray, see, it's like African Americans. We live in America, but a lot of times we don't feel respected. And people ask, why is there always a race issue in America? Yeah, I can tell you why. Because no one's ever apologized. No one's ever said, I'm sorry for the horrific pain that you experienced. They've never done it in our history in this country. And I just want to suggest to you, when we're talking about relationships and we're talking about really rebuilding relationships, wouldn't it be beautiful if leaders would stand up and say to our Gen Zs, we had you arrested. And we know that had to be traumatizing. And we're sorry. We shut down the internet. And we know that that's your primary source of communication. And we're sorry. Now we want to bring you to the table so that you can have a voice, because you're no longer a child. You're an adult. And we want to begin to say, how do we begin to treat you like an adult? I won't ever forget the time, and I'm almost done. I won't ever forget the time when a guy gave me permission to be an adult. I was in the NFL, my first year in the NFL. We had a coach he was a German guy by the name of Marty Schottenheimer. And when I got to Cleveland, I would go in, and when I would see the head coach, Marty Schottenheimer, I would say, "Hey, how are you doing, Coach Schottenheimer?" And he looked back at me and he said, "I'm doing fine. How are you doing, player?"
Mafans wa Black Mind Production Media, tunataka tukuulize swali moja bomba sana ya William Samoei Ruto. William Samoei Ruto, kulingana na vyenye tumemwona leo kwenye mahubiri ya Rickey Bolden, yeye kulingana na vyenye pia aliweza kusema apologize kwa wananchi. Mnaona atabadilika ama hataweza kubadilika? Type kwenye comment section tuambie ni nini na kuendelea, ama ni nini William Samoei Ruto atafanya next. Itakuwa na amani ama kutakuwa na kelele? Naitwa presenter Nillan ama Dr. Benny, nikiripotia ndani ya Black Mind Production Media. Black Mind Production Media, great in greatness.